In 1999, archaeologists from the University of Leicester Archaeological Services were investigating a Bronze Age round barrow near to where two others had been excavated over 20 years before.
So we found a really nicely preserved Bronze Age round barrow. This is a burial monument that was sat in the landscape at Cossington. The star find was this fantastic composite bead necklace from the Bronze Age, which was in a burial of a person which we sadly didn't find because the soils were very acidic and the bones had disintegrated over time.
Well, the Cossington Necklace, it's a beautiful example of an early Bronze Age composite necklace. And by composite, I mean it's made from more than one material. So if you look at it in the centre, there's a single bead made of faience, which is an early kind of glass material. And then on this side, this is of jet, which will have come from the area around Whitby in Yorkshire. This one here is of Kimmeridge shale from Kimmeridge in Dorset. And then the several ones at the end are made of amber. The amber itself probably originated in Denmark, but will have been obtained through connections with people in the area around Stonehenge.
The early Bronze Age in Britain was a time of great change. A new wave of people arrived from the continent and are thought to have brought the knowledge of Bronze Age technology with them. Amber and jet are challenging materials to make jewellery from, as they can easily break. This risk increases when you're using prehistoric tools. Once the materials had been collected, a prehistoric craftsperson would have used blades and saws made from flint to cut a bead blank. Drilling is the riskiest part of the making process, so it's important to drill the blanks before you invest more time shaping and polishing them. Once the hole has been successfully drilled, a blank would then be shaped on a sandstone block. A piece of leather could then be used to give the beads a final polish.
So in answer to the question of who made the Cossington necklace, it's not a simple, straightforward story. It's a very interesting story. And the answer is several different people at different times, because it looks very much as though the jet and the Kimmeridge shale beads had had quite a long use life by the time that they were incorporated into this necklace. The other amazing thing about this was that the 5 beads in the centre of the necklace were found in situ in a little line. So even though the body will have decayed, these managed to stay together. Even though the bones in the grave at Cossington didn't survive in sufficiently good condition for us to be able to say whether it was a woman or a man. Nevertheless, elsewhere where these have been found with well-sexed skeletons, almost invariably they're found with women.
When archaeologists discover jewellery from the past, we get a glimpse into how people in prehistory might have expressed themselves, viewed death, and signalled rank and status.
So the $64,000 question, why was the Cossington necklace buried when it was? What made people decide this is the right time to bury such a precious piece of jewellery? I don't have a simple answer to that. By looking very, very carefully for traces of wear, we can tell that some of the beads had been worn for quite a long time. By the time they made it into this necklace, there were heirlooms, if you like. But perhaps it was felt that she was so important that it was necessary to protect her on her final journey. And it was appropriate that this shouldn't pass to other people, and likewise it shouldn't get broken up and the individual beads passed on to anybody else. I mean, there are so many things we don't know about it. Did it originally have many more beads in it? Did it originally go all the way around her neck? We have no way of knowing that. But as archaeologists, what we try and do is every time a new one of these is newly found, rather, we try and see, okay, are there any obvious matches? Could this bead from this necklace possibly have belonged to the same parent necklace as that bead in that necklace there?
There is very little evidence of Bronze Age settlements in Leicestershire, so why would these Bronze Age people have chosen to bury their dead in Cossington?
So this part of the Cossington landscape would have been an ideal situation for early Bronze Age people to live. It's near to the rivers and all of the channels that are associated with the river, so there's lots of resources here. The soils are really nice and light to live on and well draining, easy to farm. But potentially also there's a cultural and social meaning to the reason why the barrows are here, because the river valleys were probably routes into the rest of the uplands in Leicestershire, where these early Bronze Age farmers would have travelled and taken their livestock to this confluence zone at certain times of the year where all of these groups could have converged and met. And this is probably why this area was chosen for the burial of their dead. These people could return to commemorate them, tell stories about them throughout the year, and know that they were in a place where the whole community could celebrate them. You can see from the archaeological evidence that different types of burial were representing different visitations in the Bronze Age, but that carries on into the Iron Age and Roman period, and ultimately as the Anglo-Saxon period. So once these barrows are established, they don't just become static pieces of archaeology for people in later periods. They're actively used, and they become part of their life stories in the landscape too.